Hi friends, happy Saturday or whatever day you're watching this. I'm here in my art studio next to my newest painting that I just sold, and I finished it about a week ago, posted it on my website, and it sold within a few hours the same day for $4,500. And right away I got a message from another artist, and she said it's so encouraging seeing another artist sell their work for what it's worth, but I'm feeling discouraged and need advice on how I can raise my prices. So I got to brainstorming to make this video for you guys. Okay, I started brainstorming what advice I would give to myself a few years ago if I wanted to help myself raise my prices. And the number one thing that I thought of was that if you told Kayla 3 years ago to go list a painting on her website for $3,000 or $4,000, she would have felt too embarrassed to do so. I thought in my head that if someone were to go to my website and see that my painting was so many thousands of dollars that they would laugh. They would laugh because it was just so ridiculously expensive. And that leads to the first problem that a lot of artists have, which is that I used to price my art thinking that my buyer was in the same financial situation as me. So I had a very limited scarcity mindset about money. I grew up in lower income, and then I was a FAFSA kid, and then I was a single mom. Okay, so I just assumed that since I couldn't afford a $4,000 painting, that nobody else could afford a $4,000 painting. But what I've learned through selling my art for more and more and more money is that money is completely relative. Like, if you've never made a lot of money, you don't actually realize that there are lots of people in the world who do make a lot of money. And to them, a $4,000 painting, $5,000 painting, that could even be an impulse purchase. But here's the problem also with underpricing your work is that when it comes to luxury products like art is a luxury good, it's not a necessity. Consumers, according to statistics, don't know how to gauge the value of luxury products, so they use price to determine value. And so for a lot of wealthier buyers who are looking for a piece of art, if they see that it's priced at $500, they are going to automatically assume it's not that valuable. Whereas they could see the same exact painting hung in a museum, in an art gallery, okay, for $5,000, and they're gonna think it's so much more valuable simply because of the price tag. So by you not believing your art is worth a lot, you're literally making it not worth a lot. Your art could be worth a lot of money, but you decided it's not. Look what you did. Anyway, so when you raise your prices, you're not scaring away buyers. You're actually signaling value. But here's the thing. I know it can be really intimidating to just raise your price by a big amount. So what I did that made the biggest difference for me was each time I sold a painting, I increased the price by $200. This was a small enough increment that it wasn't embarrassing. I didn't feel like someone could look at my last painting sold for 28, and then this one is up for 3,000. How dare she? That's a very reasonable jump. But then when I sold 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, then we're moving up from 2,200, 24, 26, 28, then we're in the 3,000s, then we're inching our way up to the 4,000s, and now my last painting sold for 4,500. This also signals to your buyer when they're looking at your website and they see all your paintings that have already sold, they're seeing this slow and steady climb, and they're realizing that your work is only going to continue to grow in price and that there is a market for it and it is valuable. I think it's very important to leave your sold paintings, not all of them, but like your most recent 5 or like your 5 most proud that have sold for an amount you're proud of on your website, sold out, and because it builds that trust with your buyer that your work's really worth what you're saying it is. I'm editing this and I just thought of something I forgot to say, which is I very intentionally, when I put my newest painting up for sale, I make it the only painting available. Which, okay, is it lying? No, maybe I just took the other paintings away. I make it so that I have like 5 sold out and then I have 1 available. Because if all of your paintings are sitting, if they see that you have 5 paintings available, why would they rush to buy this one? Anyways, okay, back to the video. Also, I like to post sold. When I sell a painting, I like to put it everywhere. Not to brag that I sold it, but to say sold out, you missed your chance. Not you missed your chance, but like you want to build anticipation so people realize or believe that your work sells out right away, because then they're going to be so much more likely to jump on that purchase the next time you post a painting for sale. And if you don't believe me about the whole pricing, signaling value, there was a study done by Stanford and MIT where they offered, a group of people 2 different bottles of wines. Okay, it was the same wine, but they labeled the bottles differently. One had a luxury label, an expensive price tag, and the other one had a cheap price tag. And everybody on average rated that the expensive wine tasted better, even though it was exactly the same, but they did that simply based on the fact that they thought it was more expensive. So which bottle of wine are you making your painting look like? Relative. It's completely relative in art. Okay, the second thing I want to talk about in how you can double your income as an artist is something I learned in a book called The 4-Hour Workweek by Timothy Ferriss. And he talks about the new rich, which is rather than, the successful, wealthy New York lawyer who's sitting in his, sleeping in his office on a pile of papers, staying late, working 60, 70-hour work weeks. He's talking about the new era of rich, which are people who leverage their time and their wealth and their skills so that they only have to work 4 hours a week. He talks about focusing on the 20% that brings the 80%. So focusing on what is the 20% of your skill set that yields 80% of the results or the income. So for me, this meant narrowing in on what was my number one skill as an artist. I might enjoy doing lots of different art. I might enjoy painting impressionism. I might enjoy playing with pastel chalks sometimes, but I needed to find the thread. And this is when my art career took off, is when I stopped doing a little bit of everything, or at least when I stopped putting it all in my portfolio publicly. It's okay to do a little bit of everything, but when you're posting a website or a public art page, you have to find, well, at least in my opinion, when I found the common thread that connected my whole portfolio, which ended up being realism, hyperrealism portraits, specifically this genre of underwater portraits involving water and portraiture. That is when my art took off. I started to become known for something. People started to see my paintings and recognize that that is my painting because I had created this genre for myself. So you want to find the thread, first of all, that connects your portfolio, but also you want that thread to be what is your top 1% skill as an artist, because I knew that I will never be in the top 5% of impressionism artists. I'll never be in the top 5% of chalk artists. I just like doing that stuff for fun. But I do feel confident that I could someday maybe be in the top 5% of hyperrealism artists if I continue to pursue and go deeper in this one area rather than spreading myself too thin. What do you have the best chance at being the best at? Not that, art's subjective, but it's not. Dare I say that? Dare I say that it's not? Okay, the third thing that I want to talk about is luxury branding. If there's one thing that luxury brands understand really, really well, and that is that desire grows when access shrinks. So this is why original paintings are viewed as so valuable, but this is also why limited edition prints are going to be your best friend. When something feels rare, our brain assigns it more value, and studies have shown that when a luxury product is marked as limited edition, it boosts the perceived value by up to 150%. So this is why I switched models from open-ended prints on my website that I offer forever to offering only limited edition runs of each painting that I do, limited edition prints. And for years I resisted this because here was my mindset. I thought, well, if I move to limited edition, then I'm giving up the years of potential income if I could sell that print forever. But then I actually started to do the math, and I realized, well, I usually sell like 3 to 5 prints a month, unless you guys are selling so much more. I don't know. I have like 900,000 followers, and I still was only selling 3 prints a month. And I sell them for like $20. Let's say on a good month I sell 5. That's $100 a month. That's $1,200 a year in print sales. But let's say that I do a limited run of only 25 prints, and because they're limited edition, I can charge $250 each. Well, that would sell out at $6,250. And those would probably sell out pretty quickly considering they're limited edition. And because I'm so, I'm very blessed. I have a large following. 25 is a very small number, very small number. It would take me 5.2 years of selling the open edition prints to get that $6,250. But let's take it a step further. What if I did a run of 50? That's still a tiny number compared to my following. That would sell out at $12,500, which is the equivalent of like 10.4 years of offering open edition prints. So I realized I'm not actually giving up that much revenue, because probably in 10 years I'm gonna have painted new and better things, and I'm not even gonna want to sell prints of this anyways. Here's the other reason why this can help double your revenue, is because when people see that your product sells out, they are more likely to purchase when the next one comes available. It's not always there. They can't come back to it tomorrow or next week or next month when they have a little bit more money. I mean, not that I want people to spend I don't want people to go broke buying my art, but see, luxury art collectors, they don't want what everyone else has. They want the one that got away. Like every man who's about his first love, who he treated terribly, and she got away, and then the taxi cab theory. Anyways, and Timothy Ferriss's 80-20 rule from the 4-Hour Workweek applies here too, because 20% of your followers, well, probably less, probably like 2% of your followers are going to bring you 80% of your income. So you want to prioritize their experience and serve them and elevate their experience more deeply. So when it comes to luxury as well, this means that if I want to charge luxury prices, I needed to make sure that my website and my social media presence matched that luxury branding. And how do you make your website look more luxury? Well, if you look at luxury brands like Apple and Tesla, you'll see that they embrace minimalism. Minimalism has been proven through studies to build trust, essentially because, there's no gimmicks. The product speaks for itself. So I made my website black and white. I didn't use any crazy fonts. I try to have as few pages as possible. Okay, you want to make it as simple as possible for people. Don't make them have to search through your website. I also just have 2 sections: originals, prints, my limited edition prints. That's it. Okay, the next thing I want to talk about is connection and your artist's story and why this really matters. People don't just fall in love with your art, they fall in love with you. And there's something called a parasocial relationship that has evolved, especially now in the era of social media and reality TV. And it's essentially when someone has seen so much of you and so much of your life that they feel like they know you, and they form a bond with you, an emotional bond, even though they've never met you and you don't know who they are. Kind of creepy. But if you think about your favorite reality TV star, mine might perhaps be Taylor Frankie Paul from Secret Lives of Mormon Wives. I feel like I know her. She has no idea who I am. A study by the 2024 Journal of Consumer Research found that when an audience has a parasocial relationship, they are 78% more likely to buy something from said person, even if the prices are high, even if it's expensive. So connection sells. Okay, let's think about influencers like Emma Chamberlain, whose coffee brand sold out because people just love her energy so much, or Mr. Beast, who turned connection into a billion-dollar snack company. Okay, Feastables chocolate bars, are they really that good? Not in my opinion. Don't sue me. They're good, but I would prefer a Hershey's. But there's something about that little teal wrapper in the Walmart checkout that my son can't resist, and that's why I do Walmart delivery now. No, because my son loves Mr. Beast, and so he wants to buy the chocolate. Or super successful artists like Talia Stanton, who has turned connection into like this art empire. I love her. I aspire to be her, because people just connect so much with her videos, with her personality and her authenticity and her really, really cute accent. I wish I had an accent. So anyways, collectors don't just want to buy a piece of artwork. They want to feel like a part of your story, especially if they want to feel like they're a part of your come up story. People love to feel like they played a part in someone else's success. Like, I remember when when your paintings only sold for $500 and I got one. People love that feeling. So give people something to connect to. So for me, this, it could be as simple as making like a short format video. I did this a long time ago. This is how I gained a lot of my followers. I posted my art story and my high school art teacher and how he encouraged me and influenced my art. It's that simple. Okay, next I want to talk about how, in my opinion, 2025 and beyond, there's never been a better time to be an artist, because humanity has become the new luxury. And I actually watched a little interview with Simon Sinek. I'll just put it here.
Value of human is now going to go up because the value of machine is low. So like things that come off an assembly line are perfect and not special. Your Pottery Barn mug, it is perfect in every way. But a Japanese ceramic mug made by hand with its imperfect sides and the wonky glaze is more beautiful. It is more beautiful because it is human, because it is imperfect. And I think we're going to start to want imperfect, and we're going to want handmade and hand-drawn and hand-conceived and handwritten because we want effort. Effort has value.
See, that's the difference between an algorithm and an artist. It's really funny. Everybody's so worried about AI taking over art, but I actually think personally that AI art is maybe a good, AI and AI art could be a good thing for artists, because it's just emphasizing even more the value of something that's been handmade. Sure, maybe it'll take over the mass-produced $10 print market on Etsy or the TJ Maxx wall art, but what it can't do is create handcrafted, imperfect human artwork with soul that's alive, and that is what art collectors want. So while, machine-produced prints and artwork and perfection floods the market, your brushstrokes, your mess-ups, your paint smears, something you physically made with your own hands is the new luxury. And this segues into the last thing I want to talk about, which is why adding a human touch, the artist touch, adds value. Physically touching something yourself. So this reinforces why I moved into the luxury limited edition signed prints. Studies have shown that when a artist or, a public figure actually touches a product with their own hands, think of like a signed CD by Taylor Swift, consumers are 700% more likely to purchase it. So something cute that I started doing is I thought one time, what if I could wouldn't it be cool if I could send the palette of each painting with the painting itself, but I paint with oils, and that would take 20,000 years to dry. So I started doing a palette stamp. This one didn't turn out very cool. This one was ugly. They've turned out better. Okay. And then I sign it and date it, and I send this as my certificate of authenticity. And essentially, just think about this when you're thinking about your prints or your paintings, that you could increase the odds of selling something by 700% if you just simply show that you're touching it. If you just simply show that you're signing each one. If you just post a picture of you creating this palette stamp, or you signing a certificate of authenticity, or you adding a fancy little, embossed stamp on every envelope that you send out. Because, again, people want that human touch. It just makes it feel more alive, more exclusive, more limited edition. It's like they're getting a piece of you, not just some mass-produced piece of artwork. So whether you want to rip off my idea, I'm probably not the first artist to do this, but find some way to add a human touch to your artwork, especially if you're selling prints. So this is another reason why I moved to doing limited edition prints. This is why once a doodled on napkin by Picasso once sold for $12,000. Just a napkin. A napkin. That actually reminds me of that Hannah Montana episode where Hannah Montana had to, she started selling her used tissues and her shoes and all of her clothes from her closet on eBay, right? I think it was eBay, because she maxed out her emergency credit card and she accidentally needed a whole new outfit and a fancy rug. And then I kind of relate to her, honestly, now. I'm gonna move this before I get it on my white sweater. Okay, well, I hope that was semi-helpful. So to summarize, the first thing you need to do is to start believing that your work is worth twice as much. You need to start looking at look at other artists' websites. That is something that encourages me so much. And the crazy thing about money being relative is that, now, 2 years ago, if I sold a painting for $4,500, I would have pooped my pants, okay? But now I'm selling this, I'm so happy. Then I go look at an artist's website, I just did this yesterday, and I'm like, oh, her paintings are $6,000. Oh, it's just so relative. So go look at other professional artists' websites, boost your own self-esteem, and then slowly, incrementally start increasing your prices, okay? And when you get 2 sales in a row, that is when you should get excited. That is when the wave is coming, and you need to ride that wave all the way down, and you need to keep it going by saying, sold. I just sold this painting, sold out, anyway. I just get excited about this. I just think it's so exciting to be an artist. It's just so exciting to live. I mean, capitalism kind of sucks. It really sucks, but it's also so exciting because like you have the ability to make $1 million tomorrow if you can just think of how. I love that. I love that. Okay, guys. And I hear my older son is up, so back to mom life I go. Bye, guys.